I got to England to write the score because I was going to write it where Jim was. He was in England doing post. And I found that instead of the film being totally locked and finished, they were still shooting. And it was coming out of my time to write the score allotment. I had 6 weeks to write the score when I got there, thinking that was sufficient, but there was no picture to score when I got there. They were still shooting, much less editing. I sat around for 3 weeks, visited the sets, visited the editing room. They had 16 rooms at Pinewood with bins of film and trims. It was a nightmare. Ray was inundated in his own. He was just barely keeping up with the shots and getting the film cut. And Jim Cameron is as hands-on with editors as he is with composers and cameramen. I think there was a lot of stress there too. Again, because of time. Things just took so long in England.
Cut. Let's try it again.
He was so behind, he was so preoccupied with sound effects. I mean, I remember him spending 2 days at a guy's perfecting the sound of the automatic weapons. He was so preoccupied with every facet of the production. And to add insult to injury, at Abbey Road Studios, where I recorded it, the facilities were 30 years old. They were barely able to patch in synthesizers, much less be able to do some of the things I'd wanted to do electronically. I mean, they were so behind the times. The mixer, who was brilliant in Star Wars, was out of his league with this kind of a movie, which needed all kinds of modern recording techniques. It's all fixable. It's just, can we move the picture back and give us another 4 weeks? No. So the picture was stayed. Release dates are imminent. We're 6 weeks away from theater release, and we haven't started scoring or dubbing yet. And I haven't even started writing. I haven't even started seeing the movie.
He ran out of time, and he actually hadn't finished all of the cues for our film when we were sitting there with the London Symphony Orchestra. And we realized that, I think the cue was 12M12, but it was the final cue of the film. We were going through all of the cues, and we realized it hadn't been written. And of course, I think anyone would be a little stressed to find out that the climactic cue of the film didn't exist yet.
But that is, was the last thing to come to me. And literally, I had 4 days. Now, I had seen it in the editing room, and I knew what the concept was. That's no problem. The concept was fine. The problem was, in my line of work, writing a melody in its simplest terms takes 2 seconds. The hard part is weaving a carpet that lasts exactly a certain amount of time, and in that time I have to acknowledge maybe 36, 38 events, gunfire, people dying, a monster dying, whatever the things are. It relies on exact timings to the 100th of a second so that the music matches the picture. Now when you look at it and it's all still a mess and it's not locked and it's not edited, the musical ideas are there, but I can't write, physically can't write anything. And that's something Gail didn't understand, because they didn't have very much music production experience. They didn't know what they were asking, that how inhuman and how difficult it was. I ended up writing the cue as best I could, and then 2 days before, or a day before I was supposed to record the music, massive changes. They'd changed the whole sequence around. And I was up for, 36 hours, making sense, retiming, rewriting like crazy, and then recording it. And then Jim says, well, can't we do this there? And can't we do this there? And Gail said, I thought we were going to have an acknowledgement there. And I said, well, you did yesterday, but now the sequence is changed. And that's how it just goes. And it was all a question of the pressure of time. I said, Jim, we're down to 5 or 6 days, I have to start writing, and I can't change anything. Once it's written, it's got to go straight to the copyists, because it's going to never make it to the stands. My job right now is to make sure the musicians have something to play at least that sounds 80% of what you're asking for. If I had more time, I could make it 100%, but we don't. And Gail's response was icy cold. She said, well, we'll just get somebody who can. And I said, please do. If you can get somebody more experienced and better able to produce this than me, I'd like to meet him because I'm sure I'll learn something. Well, inevitably, that goes away. It's all just war talk in the trenches. But that was the attitude.
But the incredible thing is that he wrote it essentially overnight. And it became the signature cue, not only in our film, but it's been used in trailer after trailer after trailer. I think it's one of the most used cues for any kind of action trailer to this day.
I'm glad it all works. You always remember a little bit what it took to get there, and it's difficult, but it's water under the bridge. I think that both of us felt after Aliens that life was too short for the films he wanted to make on the schedules he wanted to work under. And the way I worked, I needed more time. He wanted a lot of control and didn't have a lot of time on the way he was working. And I think we both felt life was too short to have these conflicts. And I only wanted the best score for him. And we sort of parted after that. It was very difficult, just again because of the time and because we're both perfectionists. Well, years have gone by now since I last worked with Jim. I heard about this project, Titanic. I love the story, and I had done Braveheart by this point, and it was something that I felt I could tell this particular story very well. I thought this was me. I could do this. I mean, it was perfect. It wasn't the Terminator things, or it was a real story that I could tell and be sensitive, not just all action. It so happens that Jim had also been thinking about me. He loved Braveheart, loved the score, and he said it was his favorite score, and he had been playing it a lot. And we both sort of approached each other to have a meeting over Titanic. And I begged him to do it, basically. And he said, okay, you got it. We met for like 3 hours in his office. It was a great, great meeting. It was just like 5 minutes of getting rid of history and the rest all just sort of talking about this movie, which we were both in love with. It makes me feel so crazy when I can't give perfection because of some stupid superimposed schedule that has nothing to do with the filmmakers. It has only to do with marketing department. And it's so difficult sometimes. And you have to be very clever to work around that.
Not bad for it.
Aliens was very early on in my career. Titanic wasn't. And you mellow with age. I think Jim's mellowed, and I've certainly mellowed. And that all helps the process.